Welcome back to Power CEOs, the Truth Behind the Business. I am here with Kelley Tenny. She is an educator and really a mover and shaker in the field of AI literacy. And before the break, we talked a lot about AI literacy and what does having alternative perspectives in the innovative process look like. And I wanted to ask you this before the break, but we just quite frankly ran out of time. So for everyone who's watching who may feel like they're a little bit behind on AI, Kelley, what's one mindset shift or one small action they can take to start building AI literacy personally and professionally?
I love that question. I mean, the first thing that I want to start off with, which I say often, is we're all a little behind, right? Like in a world of AI where it's moving so quickly, tools are coming out every day. AI is developing new, faster, smarter capabilities. For anybody who feels like I'm behind the ball, we all are, in a sense, behind the ball, which actually means, in terms of mindset shift, we have to stay curious and we have to be willing to be in it, right? And by being in it, I'm really just talking about using it. Pushing the limits, staying curious, as we mentioned earlier, finding a tool, testing it out, seeing what it can do. I think that's the most important piece. And so many times, I talk to clients and they're like, what can it do this? Can it do that? And I always say, like, you just got to get in there. Like, you really can't wrap your brain around those practical usage, start to understand the biases and the way it works as a bystander. Right. And so I think stepping in and being part of the conversation and being part of the game is like the best first step that anybody can take.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And so you've been sounding the alarm, setting the standard for AI, ethical AI use in education. And as it becomes embedded in every tool we use, you're asking questions like, are we innovating for efficiency or for humanity? So let me ask you, what are the non-negotiables that we as entrepreneurs and investors should be thinking about when it comes to tech integration that protects creativity, communication, and connection, all those things that make us human?
I mean, I think the biggest thing is really around considering the biases and really thinking about, as you touched upon earlier, the outcome, right? Like you said, I think you said, just because we can do it doesn't mean that we should. And I think that's where we start to get into that questionable space around AI ethics. One of the reasons why I love talking to AI innovators and AI experts like yourself, as we shared earlier, is because we think in a lot of more like realistic, practical terms. And I think that allows us to always think about AI in terms of that connection to, like you said, does it build relationships? Does it add? Does it enhance and not replace? And just because we could go and build AI humanoids that are going to completely act as humans, we don't need to. Right. And so I think when we keep it applicable and practical, I think that's when we tend to have things like ethics and purpose and need top of mind. And so, I think it's important because technology is moving faster than a lot of us. And I also believe that for every solution that we solve, we create a new problem, right? And my biggest fear is that if we move too quickly, then what kinds of problems are we bringing up that we may not be ready to solve? And I think that's really going to be key when we're talking about ethical uses, when we're talking and looking at developers and businesses and corporations that are developing AI technology. What are they really trying to solve? And if it's something that maybe isn't a current need, are they thinking about the implications that they might see down the road?
Yeah, I mean, a perfect example of that is, oh, this is great. We can have these deep fake, these lookalikes who look like us and sound like us. And then all of a sudden, people were utilizing that and using it for ransom and other nefarious
Yeah.
purposes, honestly. And so it was great that we could do this, but we didn't set anything that determined, oh, hey, this is actually a human leveraging this. This is actually the real human leveraging this. And we've seen a lot of missteps along the way, quite frankly. But there's another train of thought that I keep hearing from people. It's this myth that AI is going to absolutely kill our creativity, but you see it as an opportunity for us to creatively problem solve and to unlock our creativity. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, it's funny because I'm right there with you. In fact, this week I've had a lot of interesting conversations all across the spectrum of that. One being AI is never going to last, right? Like it's a trend and it's going to go away, which I know you've heard before. The other one, I just had someone, a CEO actually of a technology company, tell me in 15 years, AI humanoids are going to be 60% of the workforce, and they're going to completely eliminate jobs for humans, right? So there's that's the other side of the spectrum. And I think one of the things that we need to think about is, really looking at that opportunity, like you said, right? And Les Brown is a good friend of mine, and he and I were talking about it. He said something the other day that I think was really profound, which he said, every time we have a new innovation, and right now it's AI, but there have been new innovations all over when it comes to technology. It's an opportunity for people to not only learn a different skill, but to be able to step into a new role. So, for example, right, he talked about, the calculator came out and it allowed people to, and there was that fear, oh my gosh, especially in schools. Now this tool is going to do the math for them and they don't actually have to, right? But it created an opportunity for us to take things to a different level, right? To be able to focus more on like the steps behind the process and not just the numbers that were the answers. And I think that's going to be something similar with AI if we embrace it, right? Like if we recognize that with every new AI development, we have a new opportunity to enhance what it is that we are currently doing. And to be creative around how we can use it as a partner, right? And not as a replacement. And I think that's going to be really important to keep that in mind, especially when it comes to industries like education. Is really coming at it with this. I think if we come at it with this, like, how is this going to allow us to innovate or step into our human potential even more versus how is it going to take my place, then we're going to be on the right track. And that's why I think when we think about ethics, it's an important conversation. And I think there's some guidelines and boundaries that really have to be set before we go too far, so that we're always thinking about it from that perspective.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And one of the things that I like to ask entrepreneurs, because they come to me for AI strategy and to consider like where do we use this? The first question I ask is what can it absolutely not do, or what do you absolutely want it not to do in your business? What do you want it not to take away? Because it's not a magic pill, it's not a magic button, it's not going to be 100% accurate at this point in time, especially. And so that's kind of what I'm asking on the entrepreneur side. What would you say is the one question every entrepreneur, educator, parent should be asking themselves about AI that will keep them in that? How is this going to enhance our humanity? How is this going to enhance what we're doing as opposed to replace? What is that one question for you?
That's a great question, because something that I'm seeing a lot of right now, a lot of conversation is around mental health status, right? And it's around that lack of connection that humans are feeling because of social media, because of different digital platforms. We've actually created so many ways for people to interact without actually connecting, that we're starting to see the after effects of that, right? Things that we never thought would happen, but now we're seeing that humans are actually lacking real connection. And so for me, I think one of the biggest questions when we're thinking about using AI is, what is it replacing? Right? Is it replacing human connection? Is it replacing real relationships? Or is it allowing me to leverage AI so that I can continue to have real relationships, so that I have time freed up to like actually sit and have human to human communication? And I think that's going to be key. I think some of the biggest doomsdayer fears around AI and replacing humans is that lack of connection. And humans aren't going to change. Like humans are going to always need that human connection. I think that should always be the first question. And like you said with deepfake, like what are the consequences of creating a tool that actually allows a real human to step out and be imitated by an AI version that actually can't form communication and maybe isn't interested in fostering relationships? So I think relationships and communication always have to be top of mind.
Oh, I completely agree. And so I have just real briefly How can we as entrepreneurs, as investors, as educators alike build those authentic relationships even when more automation is involved? Because we've seen this kind of devolution of connection through social media, through text. Everybody's texting. I watched the other day, kids were at a prom dinner and they were literally texting each other and they were sitting across the table from one another. So, like, how can we build those authentic relationships even when automation is involved and lead by example?
I mean, I think it's really all in the stance that we take as we become AI integrators and AI innovators, right? We're certainly in a time right now where almost anything could be automated by AI. And I think, and this is why I'm so passionate about Women Who AI and this movement, is I think it's going to be important for people to take a stand in how they use it, right? And to be able to say, like, yes, maybe I can completely replace myself, but I'm taking a stand in maintaining humanity and connections in real relationships. And I'm not going to use it that way, right? I think collectively as a society, a really key piece, and it starts with the thought leaders, it starts with entrepreneurs, it starts with the influencers, is to be able to say, yes, this is an amazing thing. And we are going to take a stand for maintaining the human relationships that we have, right? I mean, you said earlier, when you talk to your clients and companies, you say, what are the things that you have in place that AI can't replace? And I think we all need to collectively decide it can't replace the human connection.
I couldn't agree more. Kelley, unfortunately, we're towards the end of our segment. How can people reach out to you if they'd like to learn more?
Well, the Women Who AI community is a free community. They can find me inside of that, and they can find other like-minded women who are using AI, who are AI curious, by going to womenwhoai.com. They can also find me on my website, teachurbrilliance.com, which is where I talk a lot about harboring your unique wisdom, which, as you know, can be really beneficial when it comes to using AI tools in a way that allows you to still remain authentic.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for bringing your brilliance here today. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And you're going to want to stick around because we've got more coming after these amazing messages.